Mayor Adams was recently dealt a blow with new poll numbers from Quinnipiac showing him at a dismal 28% approval rating. That's the lowest any New York City mayor has seen in 16 years when the survey began. Big issues like the migrant crisis and subsequent budget cuts clearly impacting how New Yorkers view their leader. I want to bring in Councilmember Alexa Aviles, who represents Red Hook, Sunset Park, and parts of surrounding neighborhoods. Thank you for coming on Picks on Politics.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Councilmember, let's hop right in. You've been vocal about the ways you've disagreed with Mayor Adams handling the migrant crisis and the budget cuts that have resulted in part because of that and expiring federal aid. What, in your view, needs to change here?
Yeah, I mean, what we see is ever since the beginning of our term, habitual cutting, really using blunt instrument of the budget to cut desperately needed services. And, while certainly the migrant crisis has contributed to where we're facing headwinds, we see this indiscriminate cutting. What we want to see is more surgical, more addressing particular places where there are wasteful spending and providing New Yorkers with what they need.
Where do you see those surgical places as? This council in particular pushed back strongly when the mayors tried to touch libraries and the Department of Education. And frankly, there is a balanced budget law. So where are you willing to make sacrifices?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we see is we fought really long and hard to restore some basic services like library services, right? And we're back at that same place again. There are certainly a good number of other places where there's unrecognized revenue, which seems to be a consistent tactic of the mayor. And also, let's look at some of the programming functionalities and what is actually working and needed for New Yorkers. It requires a more surgical tactic here rather than using it as a blunt instrument. There's a lot of wasteful spending that's going on, large private contracts where we're not seeing outcomes. There's enough places to look to cut.
I know the council has been pushing the administration to rely more heavily on the nonprofit community. I wish we had more time for that, but I do want to pivot to national, really an international issue. And you're among a number of progressive council members who've been calling for a ceasefire with the conflict in Israel and in Gaza. Explain why, in your view, that's necessary at this time, and what sort of impact do you feel local government officials can have on a dialogue like this?
Yeah, I mean, what you've seen is our colleagues are saying, this military action is not going to be a solution to this conflict. We believe all life is precious, and just no military solution here that is indiscriminately killing people and displacing innocent civilians can incredibly contribute to national security or lasting peace. And so what we're calling for is a permanent ceasefire, obviously release of all hostages. We need to find a solution to this conflict.
Have you faced any pushback for your stance on this? Because I believe you've been on the records calling for a ceasefire for at least several weeks. I know you often wear the ceasefire pin around town. You represent parts of Borough Park, the predominantly Jewish neighborhood, for example. Any pushback or concern from constituents because of this stance?
Yeah, there has been pushback, and I think a real conflation of, unfortunately, anti-Semitism and views of what the Israeli government is doing right now. And I will say that this position comes from valuing all life and understanding that we're seeing thousands and thousands of civilians being killed. And what the United Nations community is calling human rights violations. We're seeing that all around the globe. And so I think we need to really wrestle with this issue and stop the military action that is indiscriminately killing people.
Councilmember, let's move on to one quick thing at the end. I know you're at the forefront of the council's efforts to push Congress to reinstate this expanded child tax credit. Why is this so near and dear to your heart?
Oh, this is so important. And we've seen childhood poverty rates more than double in the last several years. And so we really need Congress to reenact an expanded child tax credit. We know this is a mechanism that works, and where families are hurting so desperately, this has to get done. We have 10 million children could positively benefit and their families from reinstating this tax credit.
I know it
be
lifted
now.
so many. I'm sorry to leave it there, but I know it lifted so many out of poverty, particularly in struggling New York communities. So I hear you there. I know Congressman Torres has been big on this as well. Councilmember Aviles, thank you for coming on Picks on Politics.
Thank you so much. Take care.